So a couple of them, but that's fine.
Okay, we are live. We are live. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Welcome to the beginning of a new week.
Watercolors.
Let's see if YouTube is going to wake up for me here.
Oh, mine's there.
Mine is not there.
Which one's mine?
Whoops, and I just there it is. It is there. Okay, so
Where's mine? Where's mine?
we are live. Eric is here with Candy, and Glynis is here as well. Got all the parade waves, the queen wave, the little king wave over there. The hellos. All right, Jello Margie, how are you? Good to see you on a Monday. Hey, Sandy. Good to see you on a Monday. What the heck is neurographic art? Is someone going to be doing brain surgery to get the art flowing again? You know what? It is kind of a sort of a way of brain surgery without having to do actual surgery. And it is a way to get the art flowing again if you find yourself stuck. So, hi, Christy. Hello to you. Happy to see you here. I wanted to message you, Christy, because I thought you'd really enjoy this one. Hey, Linda. Happy Monday. I'd say happy Monday morning, but it's really like mid-afternoon for you. So, oh, doodling with feelings. I have no feelings. Margie. I have feelings, but they're not good. Oh, you guys are awesome. Hi, Kathy. Toby. Hello, Toby. It's still morning for Toby, so good morning, Toby. Oh, goodness. Let's see. Who else is in here? Hi, Julie. Couldn't sleep. Back with sore, so here you are. Awesome, Julie. This might help relax your back. It is used for things like this. Oh, Sylvia, I am so glad you're here. I think you will enjoy this. Awesome.
That'll work.
Margie might even enjoy it.
Oh, I'm gonna work right here. You're gonna work over there.
Okay, so
Right here.
all you need is some white paper, preferably good cardstock or a watercolor paper or maybe a mixed media paper, depending on what you're going to use for color. A black marker, it could be a thin one or a thick one, or I like working with a Sharpie. That works well. If you have those thin Sharpies, that'll work well as well. And then you need something to use for color. And kind of sort of the easiest to work with is usually watercolors. I have a little watercolor palette here that I will use, or colored pencils or colored markers, either way. So if you're using colored,
I've only ever done that with colored markers.
okay, if you're using colored pencils, then a heavy cardstock is just fine. If you're using markers or watercolor, then you probably want to hopefully move to a watercolor paper, or something that's heavier like that can take it. So,
Hey, Sylvia. Hello, dear one.
we love our Sylvia. Just by show of hands, how many of you have heard of or have experienced neurographic art at all in any way? Have you seen it but not tried it? Have you heard of it but don't know what it is? Have you actually tried it once or a bunch of times? Are you very familiar with it? Kind of tell me where each of you are at as far as having even heard of it.
I've only done a couple, but I learned it from Gail Agostinelli.
Okay. Julie, never heard of it.
I've heard of it and seen it.
Okay. Seen it, not
I've never even heard of it till today.
okay. Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
Sylvia taught her grands this.
Nice, Sylvia. I'm really glad to hear that. Not sure what it is. Tried it. Okay. Kathy has tried it. Okay, so neurographic art, excuse me, is a type of meditative art. It's only been around since like 2014. and it was created by a Russian neuropsychologist. And he does a bunch of other things too, but that's kind of the basic there. His name is Pavel Piskarev. Not that you have to remember his name, but just in case you're interested.
There's a quiz later.
And it's a way to link the conscious, our conscious with our subconscious. And Mr. Piskarev, because he is a neuropsychologist and, you know, into all these things with how our brains work and not noticing, we all know that our brains affect everything. And we all know that our brains are the most powerful organ in our body. And there are ways to help our brain, help our body. And it's Lucy, it's okay. It's okay, Lucy. It's okay, Lucy. Just Candy's dogs. I've heard some people call it the art of world transformation. I think that's, you know, maybe a little grand. I don't know.
Might be.
Maybe it's not. Others have called it the art of positive change, because we truly can use it for positive change, you know, for ourselves. It's a type of meditative art. Not all art is meditative. You know, some art is wild and crazy and fast and loud even. And some art is meditative, and this is a type of meditative art. So the thought process with this is that, well, we'll talk about it as we're doing it too. But I've watched Pavel do it. I've watched people that he has trained. He has like a 9-month, really in-depth school of training to become a certified, I don't even know what they call them, a certified neurographical art instructor. I don't know. I am not. I have not done that. I am not. But I've been doing it for quite a while, and I've been wanting to do it on a Monday Jumpstart. And yesterday I decided that today might be the day to do that. So the idea, excuse me. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. So the idea is we can think about some area of discomfort. It might be emotional, it might be physical, and I say that, let me preface that with a lot of psychologists are using this type of art to help people heal from trauma, with PTSD, from emotional abuse and trauma, from physical abuse and trauma, from depression and anxiety and things like that. So they're using this as a method of healing that and us gaining control over those things that control us, which I find very fascinating, because I hate to be at the whim of those things. You know, we all experience something, and it's frustrating when we feel like we can't even control ourselves. So that's why I found it very, very frustrating, or very fascinating, because of my frustration with the others. So you know, when you start to do this, and you know, today will be just learning how to do it, and we're going to go through the whole thing. But when they use it as teaching you how to be able to use it as a therapy for yourself, it is actually done in stages, and like they'll do classes, and for the first class, the entire class, they only work on one step of this. I mean, literally work on one step, and we're going to do all the steps. So I realize that we're going to get through a lot in a short period of time, and it's something then that you can take if you want to, and slow it down even more and work on each step and, play with it a little bit more. I don't know. I find it relaxing. I find it calming. A lot of things. So they say that you can think of it like a current challenge that you're having, maybe in a relationship with somebody, or an area of discomfort or concern, or pain, or maybe you're dealing with a past issue that keeps popping up, and it's popped up right now, or whatever. And if you want to, you can even write that on the back of the paper that you're going to work on. I haven't done that, but that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. So you want to start with a dark marker, or something that is mark making, that is permanent, and you want those lines to be dark. So the first thing that we do, there are steps, and I'll break it down by steps so that if you want to write the steps down, you can write them down. But the first thing that we're going to do is take our marker, and we're going to...
Hi, Judy.
Hey, Judy. Hi, Bonnie. Good to see you guys. We're going to take the marker, and we're going to make some lines on the paper. Now, before we start making lines, let me give you the rules, as Mr. Pavel tells them. When you go down to you put your pen down and you're like, okay, I'm going to start making lines, and your brain says, let's go over here. You are not allowed to go there. If your brain says draw to the right, then you can draw anywhere else. You can write anywhere else except where your brain is wanting to go or telling you to go. Okay, so you cannot think about where and plan where to go. It's supposed to be just going, just doing. Each line that you make, and I say line loosely because they're not straight lines. So each motion with your marker, but when you put it down and pick it up, should start at the edge of a page and should end at the edge of a page. If it doesn't, then you could just take one and you bring it to the edge of the page so that it always starts and ends at the end of the page. They should be curves, not harsh lines, not stark lines. So you could draw circles, but here's the thing. You cannot draw a repetitive pattern. So where's? Let me grab some book pages that I don't like and I can't bring myself to just throw away. So let's use them. Like, you can't do this. Oh, this is not a very good one either. This is a repetitive pattern. So you can't do that. You can't do this. That's a repetitive pattern. So it can't repeat itself. This is not going to work. It's not dark enough. I think maybe this one will work. Okay. Does that make sense? And so the idea is that you're going to start at the edge of the page, and I'll start in the middle. So then if my brain says go right, I can go left, and I can just kind of go wherever it's going. Doesn't matter, and end on the end of a page. Okay. And then we're going to do it again. We're going to come to the edge of the page, and you're going to start to draw. And, as soon as we start to draw, our brain says, oh, let's go here. As soon as it says, let's go here, go the opposite direction. Okay, I should probably just do this right onto my paper, but giving you a couple of examples there. You can overlap. You want to overlap. You should try not to overlap in the same line. So this line that I'm doing, or mark, or whatever it is, okay, that's a little repetitive right there. They're kind of sort of the same thing. Doesn't really work. Let me do this. Okay, I'm going to start down here. My brain says, come up here and make a big swirl. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go like this. Okay, so I found myself right here out of just habit or whatever, wanting to do repetitive. And so I made my hand go somewhere else because my brain wanted to go repetitive. And so I'm not letting my brain go where it wants to go. So I didn't cross the line with that line. I didn't cross itself. But when I go to do the next one, I can cross this one. Does that make sense? So don't cross a line with itself, but you can, and you want to, and you need to cross other lines that are already there.
Linda, there's not really a lot of rules. Basically, it's just shut down your mind and let your hand wander in circles or in curved lines.
It's really hard for us to shut down our mind. And so his rules are, start at the edge of a page, end at the edge of a page, and make them soft lines. It's all about nature and bringing your brain back to the natural. And nature does not have straight lines. Nature is built on circles and curves. And so having harsh straight lines, triangles, rectangles, squares are not a part of nature. So everything should be soft and rounded and not overlapping itself or not crossing itself on the same line, but then crossing other lines. And wherever your brain wants to go, just make your hand go the other direction. It doesn't really matter what you end up with, because as I get going and I say, well, there's a big old space here. I don't want a big old space there. I want that a little bit smaller. I'll just do like that and purposefully go in there and make that a little bit smaller. And so we can continue to work with it. So take your marker and go ahead and do that. And when I say rules, I mean, rules, do what you want, doodle what you want, but the idea to get the brain working. And let's see, we have neural pathways in our brains. And when we do things certain ways, we literally form these grooves in our brain that are neural pathways. And that's why things have long-term effect on us. Because if this, then that, when this happens or when this comes up, then this is what your brain thinks, that past trauma, because that groove is ingrained that every time this happens, then this is going to happen. And so what we want to do is not let the brain take this down the neural pathways that are already ingrained in our brain. We want to disrupt those and allow your brain to heal and allow your brain to create and to be free to feel what it wants to and think what it wants to without being forced down those neural pathways that are already there. Might be getting a little sciencey for you. I love the brain stuff. I get really interested in how our brains work, why they work, and why we do what we do. I find it very fascinating. So, but there are literal grooves in our brain from things that we do over and over and over again. So we can disrupt those. And so the rules that he stated, I don't know what else to call them, other than rules, but it's not rules like you must do this and you must do that. Those are the things that are going to allow you to disrupt those neural pathways that are already there and allow your brain freedom, to actually get your brain away from what it's already ingrained with. So get yourself something, where you've got some curves on the page. Start everyone at the end and end into one. If you saw that you ended one in the middle, then just take it. I'm going to do this because this is a really big old space here. So I'm going to, just as demonstration, because I want to break this space up anyway. If you found that this one ended in the middle of a page, you forgot to take it to the edge, just take that and go take it to the edge of the page. That's all. It's not a big deal. I mean, there's nothing, it's not like, oh, you did this wrong. Just take that and take it to the edge of the page.
Debbie has a really good idea. She says in the video she watched, you put a coin at the edge of the page and pushed it with your pen.
We're getting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're getting there. That is, and I forgot to bring the coin. You can use a coin or you can use anything that moves, actually. So let's try a roll of washi tape. if you find yourself it's hard to make your brain not do what you always do and what it wants to do, then a coin is easy to see, or anything round, anything that you can push around, and you put that there. And then something that's slick will probably work better because it's going to move kind of on its own. Yeah, that's pretty slick. Okay. And then you just start pushing it around. Oh, it went right off the page. So I'll just make sure that my line goes off the page. Now you really can't control where the coin is going to go. And a coin is smaller than this, so it may be a little bit easier. Ooh. And so you just push that coin around until it goes off the page, pull it back up and start it again like that. That was what Debbie was saying, that's another technique. If you can't get your brain to relax and just go, then you trick it into saying, what we're doing right now is chasing this coin around the page. And you chase the coin around the page until all of a sudden you have all these same kinds of marks. Now, watching Pavel do this, I found very interesting because he actually does lines that are more like this. Mine are that's a little too straight. His aren't like straight like that, but he does lines that are and it's really fascinating watching him because when he gets done, it kind of looks like the neurons in our brains. Okay. And then he'll come over here and do like something over here. And then he does some more.
Definitely gives you a different take on it.
Yeah, it does. And this is kind of strange, but then you watch him and the more he does and the more he does, you're like, wow, that really looks like the neural pathways in our brains. If you've ever, seen what they look like, it is really interesting and fascinating to watch him do that. I mean, and he should know, he's the one that created it. So I'm going to keep that because I want to try the way he does, specifically in that way. The way he describes it, I would end up with this, but watching him do it, he ends up with this more. So when somebody is teaching how to do this and using it as a part of a therapy or teaching you methods to change your own neural pathways, this next step is one that they will spend an entire class on. And it's crazy because it doesn't seem all that important, but as I heard him explain it, I understood the importance of it. Now we're going to round any corners. We're going to curve the corners. This really is transforming the image. And there's something about this step that has a great effect on our brain. So once you start this step, they really recommend that you don't stop until you complete this step. That this step is all done in one sitting. Don't do a couple, come back, and do a couple, come back. So here's what the step is. Everywhere that you have a sharp line, so let's see, there's a V right there. That's going to happen every time you have one line cross the other, okay? Every time a line crosses, you're going to have a sharp corner. And remember I said we want it all to be rounded, not corners, not squares. So we're going to get rid of those corners. And the way that you do that is by rounding them off. Now, I'm going to do this.
Debbie would like to know the name of the doctor, please.
His name is Pavel, Pavel, Piskarev, Piscarev. And he's a Russian neuropsychologist. Okay, so let me show you here. When we round this off, what we're going to do is take our marker, and right now where these two meet is a very sharp point. So we're going to take it and we're going to make it round instead. I hope you can see, and if not, I'll pick it up closer. And then you just fill in that little space. So there's going to be 4 of them here because they all meet. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to round that off. Fill that in. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to round it. How big you want to round that does not matter. If you wanted to make that, clear up to here, that's totally fine. What's important is that it is round and not pointy. Okay, so as you look at that, each one of these has become round instead of coming to a point. Okay, you could literally take this and make a circle out of these. Each one of those kind of completes a circle, a little circle of its own. Now, what it is not is it's not a square over that intersection and then fill in the square. If you do that, what have you created? You've created more sharp intersections. It's not a square. So it's rounding. Here's another one. Everywhere you have 2 lines that cross or meet, then you're going to have that point. We don't want a sharp point, so we're going to round that. And then we're just going to fill it in. So here's another one here. That's even a deeper one. So I'm going to come clear up to here and round that and then fill it in. And then round that and fill it in. Okay. All 4 of those corners or spaces are not going to be equal. They're not supposed to be. You don't want them to be. They're not the same. This is a big wide one. This was a much smaller one. So they can't be the same. Does that make sense? So now, while we're talking, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this and we are going to round everywhere. So this is something that if you're sitting with an injury and you're, that's frustrating, just sitting. You could just be doing this while you're sitting because all you need literally is a marker and, your paper and then maybe colored pencils or colored markers. They use this a lot for chronic pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis. They use it a lot for depression and anxiety. And they're finding that it's, even though it's been around only since 2014, taking what the purpose is for, that they're really having great effect and great results. And people are really finding great results with it. So I find it very calming. And so if it calms anxiety, and this step right here is one of the most important steps to our brain. When we take these sharp corners and we transform them each to round corners, what you are doing is telling your brain that you are able to transform problems, that you are able to transform something that is currently this into that. And so your brain starts to learn that it can transform pain. It can transform emotional pain and mental pain and physical pain and all those things. It can transform trauma and doesn't have to remain trauma. I made that a great big one because that was a really sharp point. So you can make them as big or as small as you want. It's just transforming that sharp corner into a round corner, because there are no sharp corners in nature. Nature is not made up of straight lines and squares like that. Not that nothing ever resembles a square, because it does, but nature is made of soft lines and curves and that gives our brain permission to transform lots of things. So that's why a lot of healers that use it will say something that is weighing on you or that you're dealing with, whether it's pain or whether it's a challenge in your business or with a relationship with a person. Think about that when you start. And then
Eric says leaves have sharp corners.
Yeah, they do.
some of them do come to a point. Some
Or
of them,
like a maple leaf.
yeah,
Yep.
it does come to a point.
There is points. He said there's points.
But the whole of nature is very soft, and even leaves that come to a point are still soft. They don't look harsh and mean and nasty, do they? Hopefully not.
Cactuses are very sharp pointed.
Yeah.
That is true. Okay, I'm only telling you what Pavel said. That is true. Okay. And you know what? Sometimes when you do this, like right here, I kind of went off the edge of the line there. That's okay, because I'm not going to leave that, because that's leaving a little prick, a little point out there. I don't want that. So I will just bring it into my line, and it's making my line thicker, and that's okay. You'll see later, you can make all your lines thicker. You could make some of your lines thicker. I personally like it with thicker lines. But as you go, you might just make some thicker. In the end, I might end up going back over the ones that aren't and make them all thicker. I like what I get with those thicker lines. This is an interesting corner.
And where they go off the page?
And where they go off the page, you just let them go off the page.
Oh, you don't round those? I always round those.
You can. It's not intersecting with another line, but it is the edge of the page is a line. So that works as well. I mean, in that regard, that's part of what Glennis was saying, that there's no rules. That's part of that. No rules. If you want to do it.
No, I said there were not a lot of rules.
Oh, okay. I thought you said there were no rules.
I might have said that in mistake, but I meant there were not really a lot of rules.
No, there really aren't a lot of rules.
I didn't want anybody to feel like it was too much.
Oh, no. The rules, that's why I said it loosely. It's a loose term, the rules. The rules are so that your brain has the freedom to do something else, to do something that it wants, to do something different, instead of having to think or do what it's always thought or done. Because, I mean, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you've always got. And so if I'm dealing with anxiety or depression or pain in a certain area, and I
again.
Say that again.
You always do what you always got.
What did I say? If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got.
Yeah, see, you did it. Said it twice. That's a mouthful.
Oh, it is a mouthful, but it is true. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It's exactly the same thing. If you do the same things that you've done, you're going to get the same results that you've always gotten. So, yeah. And our brains it becomes ingrained to handle things certain ways, to do things certain ways. And this gives your brain permission to let go of those, to think differently, to do something differently.
They're discussing all the sharp things in nature.
Oh, come on, guys.
Shells and cactus.
Let go of the sharp things and go with the exercise. I'm only repeating what Pavel says about nature. This is supposed to bring our brain
The shells
back
was a good one. They're very
to
sharp.
nature.
And Margie's been attacked by a maple leaf.
Oh my goodness. There are sharp things in nature. I will agree with that. But maybe he meant the basis of nature. Like trees are round. Yeah, they've got, maybe sharp branches on them, but the sun is round, the moon is round, the earth is round. I don't know,
And archaeologists always say if they come across a right angle, they know it's man-made.
Okay, there you go. See? Oh, okay. So, yeah, if you get hung up on that, then you're not going to get any benefit for yourself. So, all right. I do happen to like the thick lines, so I end up going over my lines as I'm going and making them a little bit thicker.
Judy, Laura's in a meeting right now, so she'll join us if she can. She works from home.
Yeah, we hope she can. If not, I'm sure she'll watch it back. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing that. You know, what we're doing, but when we do this is basically showing our brains that we can transform this image from something that had right angles and sharp corners to something that's softer and very different. And hopefully that starts to train our brain that we can transform reality, because we can transform reality. But if we've never learned how, then our brain has no idea how to go about transforming reality. So when you come to these corners, the easiest way to do them is to make your round first and then fill it in. If you start filling in first, you'll find that you're filling in a point, a square, and it becomes a little more difficult just to get that round. And so they teach, if you create your round first and then fill in. So I found it very interesting that when they use this actually as a therapeutic tool for your brain to learn how to transform your life, that this right here, rounding the corners, is the thing that they spend an entire class on, just rounding the corners. Apparently, it's the most important part of the whole thing. Not to the picture, what it ends up looking like, but to the process for the brain, what the brain takes away from it. And I do find it very meditative. Normally you wouldn't have somebody talking in your ear like this while you're doing it, but I know you probably don't want to sit in total silence. But this step of doing this is what they call the most meditative step of the whole process. And they want you to make the rounding of these corners a meditative practice. What happens when you do this, when you become totally engrossed in making those round corners, is you force your brain to let go of whatever it's holding right now, whatever it's thinking about, whatever it's hung up on, whatever it is, and you force it to relax. And Margie said that this is a way of bringing art back, or getting your brain back into art. If you happen to be stuck in a funk, have just not been feeling very artistic, this is the step that is for that, because by pulling your brain away from what it's hung up on, or what it's thinking about, or what it's stuck on, and you might not even know what it is, which is why he says we're connecting the conscious with the subconscious, then once that is removed and your brain is free from that, it is now open to be able to be creative and imaginative. And that's where all the new ideas come from. So what's really fascinating, and this is why I really wanted to delve into this to kind of see what it's all about, is that not only artists are using this for that purpose, because it helps free up their brain from getting hung up on the same things, and it frees them up to be more imaginative and creative. but athletes are doing this, and they're doing other meditative practices for the
Hi,
same.
Elisa.
Hi, Elisa. They're doing that like right before they go on the field, or whatever their sport is, because if you go into, say, a musician, you're going to do a concert, and you go in there with your brain thinking about, hung up on, all wound up with all the things of the day, whatever you're thinking about or worrying about, or even pain, it's very hard for your brain to relax and be able to completely engross itself in the music and do a great performance. A part of it is still going to be stuck where it's been. And so they're using this and other types of meditative form exercises like this before they go on stage, before they go on the field, before they do what it is that they do, in order to free their brains from whatever is clogging them up, so that they can be more creative, more imaginative. Their brain can actually put 100% effort and be thinking clearly, and doesn't go in with preconceived ideas and notions, but is open to let the imagination and the creativity flow. So I found that very fascinating, that they're using it for that. Professionals are using it for that. I know
Okay,
of
2 comments.
mhm.
The left-handed people seem to be having trouble with this. And the first time I did this, rounding these corners seemed so intimidating. There seemed like there were so many of them. But the more you do it, the more you look forward to it.
Yes.
It really changes. So don't be intimidated the first time.
Yeah. And yes, it's easy to go, oh my gosh, there's so many corners there, and just not want to do it. But now, like you said, I look forward to it, because I know that this step, this process right here, is the process that helps me unwind. It helps me relax. It helps bring my brain down. It's where my brain is that makes me go, oh, that's going to take so much time, and brain's going a million miles an hour. It's this step that gets rid of that and brings it down to relaxation, which frees it up to all kinds of other new things. So interesting that the left-handed people are having trouble. So I tend to, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to go to this corner, and I'm going to go from the right to the left as I form my circle. But if you're left-handed, you want to do the exact opposite. You want to go to the corner and then go from the left to the right. Don't try to form that circle in the same direction I am. Go exactly the opposite. Come up to the corner and go left to the right to form that corner, and then fill it in. And you should find that that's a much more smooth move. that's a much smoother motion for you. Let us know if that helps, if that works for you. But yeah, right-handed people will go right to left, and that curve is much. If right-handed people try to go left to right, it's going to be a very awkward motion. So that'll be very awkward for left-handed people trying to go right to left. Yeah, I remember the first time I did this, I thought, I am not going to sit here long enough to do all these corners. That was just going to be forever, because, I'm always going 100 miles an hour, and there's a bunch of things going on, and but I did it. And then the next time I did it, I didn't think that. I just started doing it. And I know there's a bunch of corners, but now I look forward to it, because I tell myself I get to do that until all the corners are done. And I do actually find it very relaxing just to do those corners.
I like the look of how it looks when all the corners, when it's all done.
I do too. And don't you find that looks kind of like neurons and some of those neurographical pattern
Right, the
images,
networks, yes.
science books. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So that might be part of his thing, that in seeing that, our brain recognizes it, connects it to what it knows. And we are taking away all the harsh corners. And so our brain lets go and relaxes because the round corners are softer. And so softening means relaxing, letting go, not so rigid. And it's just causes our brain to do that. It's just fascinating. But, you know, whether you care about the psychology of it or not, if it works, it's worth learning. If it works, that's great, because I know a lot of us deal with both emotional and physical things. And man, to have something that does help. And this can be as large or as small as you want. You know, you don't have to do a giant page. And when you do the giant page, you can put just as many lines on it with your marker to start as you want. The first time I did it with a pen, just with a pen. I do find that I like doing it much more with a marker. I find I like the way it feels. I like the way it looks. I find it easier, much easier to do with a marker. And that's why I suggested a marker of some sort. Some people like a thin marker. My nature is to go to a thin marker, not a Sharpie, but maybe a thin Sharpie, a fine tip Sharpie. And I just, one time, I don't know why, I said, I'm just going to try a regular Sharpie. And I liked it way better than the fine tip Sharpie. So it's weird. Once you remove the restrictions from your brain is allowed to be more creative. Your brain might start telling you some stuff, and you will be surprised at how much creativity you have.
Margie, go for doing twinchies. That sounds like a great idea.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool, doing it really small on some twinchies. Or on ATCs, too, would be cool. Okay. Oh, we have time. We're good. Okay, it's only 1 o'clock. I do need to end about 1:45. So I'm keeping an eye on that. All right. Yeah, you can make these as small as spaces as you want by putting more and more lines on top of it, or you can leave them large spaces, and you might not even know exactly until you start the color portion. And when you do the color portion, then you might say, oh, that space is way too big. I don't want that there. I'm going to take this and continue this line over here and break that up, make smaller spaces.
Sylvia likes to use index cards.
Oh, that's a great idea too. And you could carry those with you. And so if you're sitting somewhere waiting and feeling a little stressed or anxious because they're making you wait forever, that's a great idea, Sylvia. I hadn't even thought about index cards. I like that though. I like that idea.
Andy's being awfully quiet.
Because it's a meditative exercise.
Oh, okay.
And she and Eric are meditatively exercising.
Well, I also do Zentangles, and I find I get the same feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. But people who don't like to Zentangle, because I know there are some, and this is somewhat similar, but yet not. You don't have to stay and make all the little marks in one area, because I like that, but I have to be in the right mood. And maybe this would put me in the mood to then do one of those. My brain can't stop and relax long enough to do a lot of that. But this really slows my brain down and opens it up to other things. So It's a way of, it is a meditative exercise though, Zentangle. So, but if you don't like to do Zentangle or just don't care for that process,
So here's my, I
This
think
looks-
this is finished as far as got
you
my
got all your corners already?
my corners.
Wow.
I
That's
might have
cool.
started while you were talking.
Oh, all right. So you're a little bit ahead. Okay. Well, we're, I'm going to work just a
Oh,
little
there
bit.
we go. That's why. I was waiting for it to show up, but I wasn't holding it in the right spot.
Oh, I could see it. Oh, now I can't. Now you've moved it out of the picture. It was in the picture. Needs to
Should
come
be-
down. No, I mean towards you. I'm sorry. Perfect. Right there. Don't move. That's perfect.
I have an 8-second delay on YouTube, so I'm having trouble
Oh, wow.
coordinating that with what I'm doing.
That's pretty.
No, I've never done the other one that we did with the coin push. So I'm going to try doing those squares. But I've never. It looks so totally different. The lines.
Yeah, because you're not controlling anything. You can't control where the coin goes, and so the lines are. If you really, really have trouble making your brain relax enough to make the lines, your brain wants to go over here and you just can't go over there. You keep going where your brain wants to go. Then I really would recommend trying the coin push, for a time or two, because it is totally uncontrollable. And so you have no control as to where those lines go by pushing the coin around. It's a great way to teach your brain, train your brain to relax.
Okay, well, Eric is left-handed. He has trouble with this. Meditative is not a word that's in his vocabulary either, ladies.
Yeah. So it's when he goes to these corners, is he making the?
I didn't even have him do that step.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
Making the
KK.
down, left to right. Okay. Okay. So what did he do? Make the.
He wanted to color. He started coloring. He was like, I don't want to do that. He started coloring.
You know what? Coloring is a meditative exercise too. So
He was just doing coloring, ladies.
Go for it,
And
Eric.
yapping why he's doing it, okay?
Yeah. Doesn't matter why you're doing it. It's the result you get from it that Granny wants. It's funny. Okay. Trying to get through some of these. Did I hear the KK came in? Hi, KK. So I'm not sure where everybody else is. If you guys are already done with all your corners or you're still working on those, but should probably still be working on them unless some of you started earlier, while we were talking because you've done it before.
And you have a large piece of paper there.
I do. I have like an A4 or 8.5 by 11, roughly.
I took half of that.
Pad. Okay. And that will make a difference. That will make a difference. And the size of the paper doesn't matter. You do whatever you want. If you want to do a great big giant one, go for it. If you want to just if you want an excuse to sit somewhere for a couple of hours and not be interrupted because I can't interrupt this step, tell your family, do a great big giant piece of paper so you can have lots of corners. Let's see.
I found with lots of corners, I know I'm talking before you do the next step, but I find that coloring it in was it drove me nuts when it was lots and lots.
And that's interesting because I thought that's how I would feel too. And I watched some and I really liked the way it turned out. And I thought, well, that would make my brain happy. So let me talk about coloring a little bit while we're doing this so that we don't have to stop and talk about coloring. We can go right into it. So we're going to add the color next. And you can use markers. You can use colored pencils. You could use gel pens. You can use watercolor paint. I'm going to use watercolor paint today. And we start coloring in the spaces, each of the little spaces that we've created here. And there is no rules on the color. Well, there's a couple of you should do's. But as far as do you want to color them all the same color and maybe shade them so you get some cool variation and texture there? Do you want to just use one or two colors that are, shades of the same color? Do you want every single space to be a different color? In that, there are no rules. You do whatever you want in that regard. Some people want lots of colors, some people don't. I find that I do it very different every single time I do it. And I have a whole file of them that I've been pushing around my desk because I kept thinking, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I kept pushing it around my desk, pushing it away, out of the way. And now all of a sudden, I know it's buried under something, probably some of the sales stuff that's sitting here. And I couldn't find it. I only have this one. And here's one. And I'll pull that back out again when we do color. But yeah, the color ends up being different every time I do it, and it's just based on however you feel. And I never go in with an idea of what I'm going to do with color. I don't know. I don't plan that. It's just what you kind of feel like. Typically, I'll just say one color do I feel like using, and I'll use that one color first. And then it's, what color do I want to put with that? Do I want them all to be the same, just different shades? Do I want different colors? Sometimes I've done every single space a different color. This one that I just showed you, there's 3 colors, and it ended up being red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors. That was not planned. In fact, I pulled out the blue first because I love that color, blue, in this watercolor palette, and had no idea what was going to go with it. Put the blue down, and then just found myself sticking my paintbrush in the yellow and then the red. And I went, oh, gee, I just did, red, yellow, and blue. So, and that's great. That's exactly what you want. Just let your brain relax and go and do whatever it feels like at that moment. And everything doesn't have to be planned in that regard. Okay, I'm looking around to see if I've missed any. I know that there's a couple.
Probably the only rule I try and stick with is I try and, if I'm using, like, say, 5 colors, I try and make sure each one is an odd number.
Okay. And that's not a rule of the game, but if that's a personal thing that you like, then go for it. As far as what, kind of rules, or what does he recommend when you're coloring them in, if you are using colored pencils, do I have a colored pencil here? If you're using colored pencils, we tend to, when we're coloring, say this is your space, we tend to go into color with colored pencils and start, doing it in lines to fill in the color. Okay, that's kind of the only rule there. That's harsh straight lines. You can't do that. You got to color in circles. And that just makes your brain think differently, but it's pulling your brain out of the neural pathways that they always use and putting them in a situation that you've probably done a million times, coloring something, and telling your brain, you can't do it the way you've always done it. You've got to do something different. You need to use circles, curves, round movements to color this, not straight lines. Okay, does that make sense? Let me think about that for a minute, but that might be the only kind of rule as far as the coloring.
Candy, Debbie thinks yours is really looking great.
Ooh, I got to see Candy's. Oh, she's already in the coloring. Awesome. Yeah, it is. Are you using pencils or markers or what, Candy?
Markers. I forgot I had it muted, ladies. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. She's talking away. And
I'm sitting there saying, markers, markers.
why are you keep asking? Markers?
There's Eric's.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and you can use any. Try one with markers. Try one with colored pencils. Try one with watercolor paint. It's kind of a different feel. If you don't, I don't usually use watercolor paint for anything coloring. And that's why I decided to try it, because that's something that I never do. And so if this is freeing up my brain to think differently, to think creatively, then I'm going to try something different, because maybe my brain will be able to handle it because it's free. It's open.
Dark green or light green?
It did, and it turns out I really like it with watercolors. So I had no idea. Yeah, while you're doing this, and you know you're going to color in the spaces, if you see a space and you think that space is just way too big, I don't want one that large, then you can absolutely add lines. And I say lines, you know they're curved. I don't mean just straight lines, but it is a line. It's a curved line, but it is a line. You can add lines while you're doing this in there. So it's not that you don't have any control or can't do something you want to it. You can. I'm going to try something. Oh, go ahead.
Two shapes I like to add is circles and squares. We're not supposed to have any right angles, but the odd square here and there actually looks quite effective.
So, you know, it's all, in the end, that makes it look like a cool piece of art. The square, if you add square, I would do that at the very end, after your brain has been freed from all the rigidity that it's in. You add the square, and then you're, again, pulling it to something different. I would not start with squares, because you're allowing it to stay straight line, rigid where it was. But it does make for a cool piece of art. So, you know, once you do, I've got a lot of pretty small spaces in here. So I'm not going to add, I don't think I'm going to add any shapes. But once this is, if I'm doing this and I've got, you know, quite a bit of open space, well, let me grab the other one, because I did in that one.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura. You'll have to go back and watch the first hour. In the other one, the one I'm going to show you in just a second here, I did have quite a bit of open space. And so I grabbed something round. In fact, I think it was an ATC, and just traced around it to get that circle shape. And I just put circle shapes here and there, wherever I felt it needed, you know, something, or I wanted to add something. You can add those. You can just add it by lines, or let's see, do I have any corners, any intersections that I didn't get? If I didn't, I'll find them when I'm coloring. Okay, so see on this one, I had quite a bit of space. So I added some circles here and here and here. These two created 3 shapes out of the one circle, and this was just one. And then I think I grabbed an ATC, and I traced around it here, traced around it here. Maybe those are I traced around it here, half off the page, because there was just a lot of open space. So yeah, you can grab something and trace a circle, or you can do a circle by hand.
Hi, Cheryl.
I just saw kind of a weird clown angry face in that. There's an eyeball. Oh, hi, Cheryl. Oh, man, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, if you've missed any corners, you'll find that as you start coloring. This one was watercolor, and I'm going to use watercolor today, I think. I kind of liked the effect. And then I'm going to do a whole one like this, like Pavel does his like neurographic lines. He calls it, this whole thing, Neurographica. You know, neurons are the cells that carry the messages between the brain and the body parts. So they are a basic part of the central nervous system. And so if they're carrying pain from the brain to the body parts, and we can interrupt them and give them something different to think, or, different path to go. Anything that'll help. I'm up for anything that'll help. Okay, so I've got some watercolor here. So he calls it Neurographica, and what is Neurographica? What does that mean? It's a big old word. Somebody said that at the beginning. That's a really big word. Well, neuro is the basically the neurological systems, they're neurons, and then graphica is the artistic use of pictures, words, shapes. That's what graphics is. If you're doing graphics, it's using pictures, words, and shapes artistically. And so if you put the neurons and the graphics together and have Neurographica, and can take your neurons out of the pathways that they have grooved in your brain, quite literally, and give them an opportunity to be artistic. Artistic just meaning an opportunity for them to think differently, to act differently, to do something different, something that might be helpful. I don't know why I have two brushes. Maybe I need them. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Okay, so to start, I probably just pick one color to start with. If you're using colored pencils, remember to color in circles. If you're using markers, you may be able to color in circles. If you're using watercolor, you can color in circles, or usually it's like a half round. It's not usually straight anyway. So I think I might try something different. I have never done this way. There's nothing that says that you have to only put one color in a space either. So I'm going to try deciding which colors might work for this.
I haven't done it, but I saw somebody who put 2 or 3 related colors in each one and blended them up.
Oh, that's cool. And see, if you do it with a colored pencil, you could take a blender pencil, and blend with those as well. Yeah, I don't know how this will work with watercolor, but I'm going to try it. Why not? Now I'm thinking about, I think that this would probably, what I'm going to try to do is probably, I'm just going to put one color inside the other. I think it would probably be easier to do with colored pencils, because you could blend them a little bit better, and you can maybe control a little bit better where your color is. I'm still going to try to avoid right angles, sharp lines, sharp points. And that's why I want 2 brushes. So if I don't have to completely get rid of all that beautiful color. Man, I can't even tell what color. Is that the pink? I hope that's the pink. Maybe I should let it dry first before I do one inside. Or maybe not. Maybe that will help it blend together. I don't know.
Just going to say, blend it out.
This is just an experiment. So isn't that what the whole thing is about? Is getting your brain to be willing to think differently, try different things, be creative. So okay, so now I'm going to go over both of them where they meet and see if they'll blend a little bit. Get a little bit of water.
Bonnie is wondering what alcohol ink would work on these.
I don't think so.
What if you used a brush?
You could use a brush with alcohol ink. You would definitely have to use plastic paper. It will not work on watercolor paper. As soon as you put the alcohol ink on the watercolor paper, it's going to soak right in. There is no moving it. There is no blending it. I mean, you would end up wasting a whole lot of ink because you can't move it at all to cover any space. As much as you put down is going to soak in right where you put it down.
I forgot about that.
That I think would be probably the most frustrating part, of it. I suppose you could do it on plastic paper, on a Yupo or a graphics, and then brush the alcohol ink in it. But you'd have to use just such a little bit of alcohol ink so that it doesn't run, anywhere else, so that it stays within your shape, and then make sure it dries before you go to the next one, so you don't end up with it running. It'd be a lot more difficult. I think it would take away a lot of the meditative factor to the brain and what you're trying to do for your brain.
She's also suggesting going over the lines with embossing powder.
Yeah, you could do that.
That would look cool.
That would look cool. When you get all done with, get this whole thing done, then you could take an embossing ink pen and go over the lines, sprinkle the embossing powder on, and emboss the black lines. That would look really cool. And yeah, turn it into a Neurographica piece of art. It is a piece of art. You could have a whole book or file or whatever of these that are they're just cool. And what's interesting to me is that every single one I do is different from any other one that I do. I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same process every time, but they're always different, But then our brain isn't the same all the time either, except that it has.
Elisa has a good question. Can you use embossing powder on Yupo?
I've never tried. Huh. Elisa, if you try it, please let us know.
I would think it might melt once you put the heat into it.
Oh, right.
That's a good point. The plastic paper might.
It might. You'd have to be real careful about that burning.
Yeah, you might be able to put some heat on it, go away for a second or two.
You have to keep moving it, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, because the paper will, that's a good point. It will warp for sure. If the heat is on, the hot heat is on for any length of time. But I don't know how the embossing would work as far as taking the heat away, bringing it back, trying to do that kind of in stages to protect the paper. My guess is you probably wouldn't be super happy with it because you'd get warped paper. But hey, everything's worth a try, right? And you know what I find is when I put this on, if with the watercolor, if I go over my black line, I can just wipe it with my finger and it comes right off the black line. It's Sharpie, it's permanent, which is awesome because I really like having the black lines, seeing the black lines there. But once it's dry, it's not going to do that. So if I'm using paint, I will have this little dish and I have a little cup. It's a little bigger than a shot glass. It's probably like the size of 2, just one of those mini cups. It's glass. And I put it inside of it. And inside the little glass is clean water. Outside is dirty water. So I'm washing my brushes, cleaning my brushes on the outside. But then when I want to get some water for the paint, then I dip it into the center. I'm grabbing my towel over here. I dip it into the center, which is the clean water. That's how I keep both on hand without taking up a ton of space.
Julie is asking about the paper used in dilution journals.
I'm trying to think of that because I have some of those. Let's see. If you're using colored pencils, it would be perfect. I think it's going to be a little thin if you're using a watercolor because it isn't watercolor paper. I'm trying to think of that. They come in mine. The ones I have, I think, are in Traveler Journal size. Is that what yours are, Julie? They're the same. Okay, so.
Okay, Debbie, bye.
Bye, Debbie. So Piscarev claims that the whole process of Neurographica awakens some dormant neuroconnectors because we're not allowing it to just take the same pathways through the brain. So it's awakening dormant neuroconnectors, and that is supposed to stimulate positive change within the artist. So if you're wondering, okay, how exactly does this work? Scientifically, that's how he says it works.
Can I push straight out the middle of this one? Look at it.
How's the coloring coming, Eric?
The what?
How's the coloring coming?
He's done.
Oh, you're done coloring?
Ah.
So it's a good time to experiment with darker or lighter colors. They suggest using 3 or more. You could do it all in blues and use 3 shades of blue. You could, like I said, do every single space a different color. Totally up to you. I think what I'm trying to achieve here would be easier to do with colored pencils. Where's my dark blue? Is that it?
Or even watercolor pencils.
Yeah, even watercolor pencils. Bonnie, you could definitely use alcohol ink markers. I don't think that we'd get great results just from alcohol ink with a brush as much, but I do absolutely, I believe you could use alcohol markers and they would work just fine. And they're going to dry super fast. So you're not going to put your hand in them like I do in wet paint.
Are Copic, are they alcohol ink markers?
Yes, Copics, Spectrum Noirs. There's a lot of different brands. Those are probably the 2 most well-known. So if you think about it, those alcohol ink markers, you can write with them and then use alcohol on them just like you do your alcohol to get different results. You could spray, like you could write and then you could spray, spritz it, and think about different things you could do with your writing, if you did that, the things that we do with the regular alcohol. Let's see, was that yeah, that was. Okay. So they even suggest, to experiment with layering colors. You know, shades of dark and light and layering colors. And then after you finish all of the color, and we're doing this really fast. Normally, you wouldn't go through it, you know, so fast. Once you know the process, you've got the process, and you're going to sit down and do it. You know, you wouldn't be rushing through it to, you know, on a timeline. That's part of what you're trying to get away from, is that we're always rushing through things with our brains, you know, going a million miles an hour, so many things going on, and we're trying to slow the brain down, relax it, and give it an opportunity to think differently, to be more creative, to choose different ways to handle the emotions and the pain that is sent, you know, down into our body, all those things.
Sandy is using alcohol markers and they're bleeding. What type of paper are you using, Sandy?
That's my question. Yep. And what type of paper are you using? Because that doesn't relax your brain. It's not making you happy. You know, the funny thing is that this works perfectly well with just like cheap Sharpies, you know. It's funny, we get all these expensive things and then
Eight by 11 cardstock.
cards. That's why. Well, and I don't know what kind of cardstock, and is it very thick or?
She has no clue.
Okay, yeah. It's the type of paper. You would have better results on probably a much heavier paper, a mixed media paper for sure, a watercolor paper. That's frustrating, Sandy. I'm sorry. And I would say that it's wise to, Glennis already alluded to this, but it's wise to try this more than once, because, you know, yeah, the first time I did it, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have time to sit here and do all this. And I'm gonna what on every single corner? Look how many corners there are. You know, yeah. And then the next time I did it, I didn't think that. I didn't go straight to, oh, this is great, meditate, you know, very meditative. But I didn't think of that because I knew kind of what to expect there. But each time I do it, it becomes more and more meditative. And now I look forward to sitting down and doing those corners, knowing however long it takes me, that is uninterrupted time that I can just, you know, do these corners, give my brain a chance to rewire itself, or maybe it's unwire itself.
Well, I've got my corners done on my coin one. So this is, I'm just going to show again what my original one looked like.
Okay. Okay.
Wait for my 8 seconds to.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I'm in line.
You are. You're perfectly in line. Okay. Where's your coin push?
So that's my first one. This is my new one. Looks really different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've never done it like that, but I kind of like that too.
Yeah, because it's making your brain think differently because you're looking at something different that you've never done. And you can't control where the coin goes.
Yeah, it's a very different effect. It's
It
more organic to me.
Yes. Yeah, because no matter how hard I try, when you're doing, you know, even these soft ones, it's really hard to not let your brain have any influence at all. You know, the brain says, I want to go right, go left. And you can do it very slowly. Some people say, put down your marker and then just very quickly, you know, do whatever on there. And he actually says the opposite. Because when we do that very quickly, our brain is going to default to the way we always scribble a line, to the way we always do a swirl. It's going to default to the same thing. And so all you're doing is creating this same thing that you've always done. And so he says, actually go very slowly and kind of think about it. When you start, if your brain says, okay, let's start over to the left, then go right. And as you're going along, if your brain says, well, let's make a big loop up there, then don't. Turn right here and make a small loop over here. Just do the exact opposite or anything different from what your brain wants to do. And you do have to go slowly in order to even be aware of what your brain wants to do, I found.
Well, I would definitely try this again. This
Cool.
I like the look of it.
Yeah. Your coin one will be very interesting when you get that.
Well, it looks different than from any of the other ones I've done.
Uh-huh. That is interesting. That's probably the one where your brain was freed up the most.
Oh yeah. I just pushed, like it's the roll of washi, but the same thing. I just pushed it around.
Sure. But instead of thinking about where you're going to put lines, you were thinking about keeping that washi moving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you got what you got. There was no plan on let's go here, let's go there. Your brain was totally focused on the washi, and that's the point of pushing the.
Because even if you think you're opposite what your brain wants, like the first one, it's totally different than this effect.
Yeah, you think you're going opposite, but yet it's hard to do. You kind of fight it every step of the way. Your brain still wants to go over here and maybe do a loop-de-loop that way because you always do, and you try to avoid it, but you still get a little bit of that influence in there.
Has anybody else done one with the coin push lines?
I have, but I don't know where my folder is.
Hi,
Right
Lucy.
now. Hi, Lucy. And I think that the longer you do it, the more you do it, that the more we'll be able to let our brain go and not be trying to control that process of the lines so much. Where right now, I've been doing it for a while, and I still can feel the pull of my brain trying to dictate where my hands going when I'm making those lines.
Lucy has done these, but she hasn't colored them yet.
Okay. It's funny because I first time I did it, I thought that doing all those corners I thought it was going to be a little irritating, because I don't have time to do all that. And now I thoroughly enjoy it, but it's kind of the coloring too. Now I find myself coloring quite slowly because I find that the coloring process is quite meditative as well in a different way. Even though I get to make the decisions about the coloring, not trying to do the opposite of what my brain wants. You can actually choose what you want, but I do find it meditative to do the coloring. I also found it part of the exercise. The whole purpose of the exercise, is freeing up our brain. And I found that by using different media each time to do the color really helped that as well. Because if I always use pencils, I've got a little hair right there, or I always use markers, or I always use watercolor, whatever it is, it's kind of always going to be, it's always the same process, but it's going to kind of have the same look, and my brain kind of knows what it's going to look like in that general regard. But by using different media, like the first time I used watercolor, I didn't really know how watercolor would turn out on this. I hadn't ever done that. And I'm not a watercolor artist. And I'm finding that I am really enjoying watercolor way more than I thought I would, and would like to learn more about it.
Well, watching your watercolor makes me want to maybe try that on my second one, because I haven't tried. I've only done markers. That's all I've ever done.
So what I thought I would try with this one is kind of sort of blending, maybe not as much blending as, but using two colors in each shape. I've never done two colors before. Oh, great. I had red on that finger. I've never done two colors on it in a shape before. And so I thought I would try that and do the same two colors in two places, where one has one in the center and the other around it, and the other one's, the flip of that. And so it kind of gives that, shading or blended without really doing that. Obviously, I'm not real proficient at that with watercolors, but it is completely different because I've never done that. Again, it's making my brain be open to something new and not know what it's going to be or look like or how it's going to turn out. That's pretty wet. Might need to wait until that. Okay, so are we on time? All right. So yeah, and then if you need to do this, and then you need to stop, and then you have to come back and add more color and keep doing the rest. You can do that. The only step that they really suggest that you don't stop once you've started it is the second step of curving your corners. And I mean, there must be something really strong for our brains in that process of taking a sharp, rigid corner, like a corner always is, rounding it off, completely transforming it in, training our brain that we can do that. We can transform problems. We can transform the past and what it's doing to us emotionally, all those things. The brain is the most powerful organ in the body, and the brain controls everything. If we can get a little more control over our brain, man, it's crazy to think of the things that we could do. I'm sure as a human, I will never be at that level, but any little bit of control I can get to make my brain do what I want it to do.
Lucy, it's Glennis and Candy are the other two people.
Yep. It's Glennis and Candy and Eric.
And Eric.
Yep, Candy and Eric.
I like the blue, the two color on the blue. That looks the dark and the light.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it blended very well, but I like the two colors. Like maybe I had a little too much paint. And so I did the pink and the magenta, and then I don't even know what colors these are. They aren't labeled. But the yellow and the darker, and then the blues, and then the rest of them I'm just going to fill in with color.
Toby did the coin push.
Oh, cool. What do you think, Toby? Did it give you lines different than you would have ever drawn, on your own if you were just drawing lines?
She said she loved it.
Cool. Now the fun will be sitting down and doing the corners and rounding the corners and then giving it color. Okay, this is funny. This is turning out, it's not red, yellow, and blue. It's kind of like pink, yellow, and blue. I did not intend to even go the same color direction.
Well, the outside edges are red.
Well, this is it's kind of like a pomegranate, but that is a red, and this is a pomegranate, a magenta, and a pink, and then this one is red. So there is a difference, but it's still. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, you still got basically the same three colors. That's weird. But then I do intend to use a lot of different colors in the different spaces on here, but this palette doesn't have a lot of different colors on it, honestly, which is interesting. But I love the way these watercolors work. They're just creamy. And they're easy to use, and they're just super creamy. So that's why I like this one. And it's small, so I can keep it right near my desk.
Toby's got a headache from doing this. It's too bad.
Oh, no, it's supposed to relieve headaches, Toby. But if this is the first time that you did it, your brain might have gotten a little tight and thinking, wait, you're not letting me have control, and focusing hard and worrying about doing it right. And that's okay. I'm sorry that you have a headache. That is not good. Maybe set it aside, and then when you maybe sitting down and watching TV or something, pick it up and start rounding the corners, and just know that you've got all the time in the world to round the corners, and that's all you're doing, and see if that part right there starts to become more relaxing.
Do you usually do 3 colors, Marianne?
No, I usually do. It's recommended 3 or more.
Yeah, I've always done 5, but I was going to try and do 3 on this one.
So 3 or more. You could want to do it monochromatic, and you could do 3 shades of the same color. That's still 3 or more. That's still 3. I'm going to use every color, maybe not the black because it'll just mess with my lines, but I'm going to, on this one, I think I'm going to, I started out thinking I'm just going to use every single one of them. And the first ones I went to were the red, yellow, and blue. And then I'll add all these others, but I'm not shading all the others like the first one.
I think why I went to black is that in school, whenever we did maps, we were always told to do 5 colors and then they'll never touch each other or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because then let's see. You do 5 colors, then you'll never have the same 2 colors together touching. Yeah. And, sometimes I do, like on here, I like to do a different color, so they're not touching. But say here, I had a lot of blue and a lot of yellow, and it needed, like right in the middle, there was already a yellow. There's 2 blues. It needed red in between it. I did all 3 of these little tiny pieces in red. And, that kind of went against what my brain would normally want to do. And so I thought, all right, that's progress because I'm doing that, and that's not where I would normally go.
Marianne's turning us into rebels.
It's more fun that way. The Happy Rebel Club.
Julie sent you a photo.
Okay, let me grab it. Let's see here. Oh, got one from Sandy too. Awesome. Okay. Oh, wow. This is Sandy Rath. That's really cool, Sandy. That's really pretty.
Oh, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
I'm rounding Eric's corners and making his lines darker.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is, isn't it? Okay. And
Oh, yeah. Oh, those colors are great.
I don't have, Julie, I don't have your, oh, here it is. Just came in right now. Wait, Julie, that's not the exercise.
She said that's what relaxes me.
Yeah, what relaxes her is drawn hearts all over the paper. You should try it, Julie. Don't allow your brain to tell you that you can't try something at least once or twice. Because, you know, sometimes we find something we like and we didn't think we would, didn't know we would. And you just never know. I don't know. You just never know.
Like me and calamari.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd like watercolors, and I really do. I really do enjoy them. So,
There's mine and Eric's. We're done.
oh, cool. All right, I'm gonna make each of you big for a second so we can take a look at. Ooh, those look nice.
I embossed them.
Look at all that glittery,
I
shimmery.
put the silver embossing here, and then I had gold metallic marker here, so I put the gold embossing on those.
Oh, I like it.
And this is Eric's. Now I went through and put the dark lines back in because he colored it, and then I circled. I took out his sharp lines. Yep, I took out your sharp lines.
I like it, Eric. It makes me feel like I'm out camping.
That's Eric.
It makes me look. I think I'm underwater and I'm seeing a lot of seaweed and plants.
Yep, he did.
That's
He did
cool.
really
I
good.
feel like I'm out camping and fishing. Okay,
Yep.
Glennis, let's see yours. There's the one that you pushed around with. You could lay them side by side on your green thing. There you
Oh,
go.
that bottom one, the one you pushed around, Glennis.
Bottom on
The
the
bottom one, yeah, that's my coin
Oh,
one.
that's cool. Now we didn't do it. We didn't do it as long. I was messing with Eric. So I know that. What was the time limit doing the squiggly lines?
no, there is no time limit.
No time
there
limit.
Nope,
Oh.
there is no
I saw
time.
one that she said draw lines for like a certain amount of time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just did it till my
30 seconds or
face is
something,
done.
but that does not come from the creator of this, who is the
Okay.
American
I
psychologist.
was like, because we just did it. We had a little bit of paper and we just,
Yep.
you know.
No, there is no time limit.
Okay.
There is no on either end. So that's cool. Both of them look cool.
I
but
like
in
them.
different ways.
That'd be really
Yeah,
cool.
I'm very intrigued with the bottom one. I can't wait to start coloring
Yeah,
that.
I
That
can't
one I'm
wait
going
to
to
see
try
that
putting the
one colored.
watercolors on.
Oh, cool. I can't wait to see that one colored in. I think that's going to be really neat.
Eric, Laura says your picture looks like you're looking out a plane window.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a good perspective, Laura. I like it. Wow. Okay, we are going to go ahead and call it right here because I have a 2:00 doctor's appointment. So I could sit and do this for another hour though. Once I get doing it, it's very relaxing for me. It's just allowing myself to stop long enough to do it because we're always going. So if I stop long enough to do it and to sit down and do it, I find it relaxing. Then I want to continue doing it. So,
And I tell myself I don't have to do the coloring in one day.
right. No, you do not. I would recommend that when you're rounding the corners, once you start rounding the corners, try to keep doing that until they're done, all in the same session. But that does not take as long as the color does. And the color, if you want to do a little bit of it each day while you're watching your favorite show or something, totally okay. Totally okay. Lucy would not have patience to color Glennis's because there's so many little spaces.
But it's only a small sheet. It's like 3 by 5.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes a big difference. Cool. And that's kind of smart if you think you're going to have a lot of small spaces to make it.
I don't like coloring in large places. That drives me nuts.
Yeah. Small one. Yeah. Okay. You know what works for you.
So I purposely, all my large places, I went through and drew circles or more lines or whatever.
Yep, to create more spaces.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We do appreciate you choosing to spend your Monday afternoon with us. Sandy, I'm glad that you found it relaxing. And I love to see all your pictures in the group. Please, once you get them colored, post them in the group. Even adjust the black lines and then the colored, because just like everything else, it's really inspiring to see everybody else's and to see how we can do the same exercise and come up with very completely different things from each other. That's always awesome too. So have the rest of a great day, everybody. Love y'all, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.